So our brains aren't blank sponges absorbing everything, but they're not rigidly fixed either. Given this balance, how do we acquire complex cultural skills like reading and advanced mathematics? These are relatively recent human inventions, certainly not explicitly wired into our genes. This brings us to the fascinating neuronal recycling hypothesis.
Right. It proposes that cultural inventions like reading and math don't create entirely new brain circuits from scratch. Instead, they recycle pre-existing brain circuits, repurposing them for new functions. It's important to distinguish this from exaptation, which is an evolutionary process over thousands of generations, like shirred feathers, originally maybe for warmth, getting repurposed for flight.
Okay.
Neuronal recycling, in contrast, happens within your own brain during your lifetime, just through learning and education. Taking a circuit meant for one thing and making it do something entirely new. It's our brain's ingenious way of making new tools out of old parts, essentially.
Can you give us a concrete example of this neuronal recycling in action, something that really illustrates how it works?
Sure. Take our innate number sense. Even before formal education, we have a prefrontal circuit with neurons sensitive to approximate quantities, like knowing roughly that 5 dots is more than 2 dots. When we learn Arabic digits, the symbols 1, 2, 3, and so on, some of these pre-existing quantity-sensitive neurons become selective to those specific symbols. They get repurposed. And when we perform basic arithmetic, like addition or subtraction, we recycle parietal lobe circuits normally used for shifting our visual attention in space. We now use them to move along a mental number line. Adding shifts our attention right towards larger numbers, subtracting shifts at left. The brain is literally repurposing a spatial attention mechanism for abstract numerical operations.
Here's where it gets truly fascinating, showing the power of this recycling. This is dramatically illustrated by blind mathematicians.
Yes.
Despite having radically different sensory experiences, they use the exact same parietal lobe circuits for abstract mathematical concepts as sighted mathematicians.
Even more astonishing, their visual cortex, deprived of visual input, reorganizes itself to respond to math, language, and braille reading. This shows the remarkable adaptability of these circuits, but always within a pre-existing architectural framework. It's not creating new hardware. It's like installing new software on existing repurposed hardware.
Right.
And even in educated brains, traces of these older recycled representations persist. They subtly betray their origins. For example, when you quickly compare 5 and 6, you're slower than comparing 5 and 9. This is called the distance effect. It's not just a quirk. It's our brain's ancient approximate number sense still kicking in, trying to estimate quantities, even when dealing with precise symbols. It shows us how deeply our sophisticated math skills are literally built on top of or recycled from those more primal, evolutionarily older circuits. No matter how much you try to focus on the symbols, your brain can't help but activate the underlying quantity representations, which overlap more when the numbers are close.
And the impact of not having this recycling is stark, isn't it? It illustrates its real-world significance. Studies of illiterate adults show profound differences in cognitive skills, like shape recognition, distinguishing mirror images, even memorizing spoken words compared to literate adults.
Absolutely. This demonstrates that neuronal recycling isn't just a theoretical concept. It's a very real fundamental process that profoundly shapes our higher cognitive abilities and how we interact with the cultural world around us. Literacy literally changes the brain.
So after exploring the brain's incredible design, its learning mechanisms, how it repurposes itself, what does this all mean for us? And critically, for the next generation of learners, this deep dive really reinforces that both nature and nurture are profoundly right, doesn't it? Children are born not as blank slates, but with this rich set of core skills and knowledge, object concepts, number sense, language intuition, social understanding. The idea of the brain as a blank slate is just, well, wrong.
And yet, evolution also leaves the door wide open for learning, giving us immense malleability. The fine details of neural circuits, particularly on a scale of a few millimeters, are profoundly shaped by interactions with the outside world. This dynamic interplay is precisely why early intervention is so critical. Whether it's helping a child with a lazy eye, teaching a second language, or adapting to blindness, the sooner these interventions happen, the better, while the brain's plasticity is at its peak.
Our schools are, in essence, institutions designed to maximize the plasticity of the developing brain. Education relies heavily on the spectacular flexibility of a child's brain to recycle some of its circuits and reorient them toward new, culturally vital activities like reading or mathematics. And numerous experiments, like the Perry Preschool Project, show that early educational interventions for disadvantaged children can lead to improved outcomes decades later. Lower crime rates, higher IQs, higher incomes. It's a lifelong ripple effect.
But it's not just schools, of course. Parents and families also have a fundamental duty, perhaps, to stimulate children's brains, to enrich their environments as much as possible. Let babies experiment with gravity, with falling bodies, provide math tools like rulers and compasses, let them play. And crucially, speak to infants with a rich vocabulary, well-formed sentences. Engage in active conversations. Passive exposure, like just having the TV on, is not enough. Active one-to-one interactions are essential for robust vocabulary acquisition and cognitive development. And it's frankly alarming to see plummeting school results in many Western countries, like France in mathematics, while some Asian countries like Singapore and Shanghai soar. This strongly suggests a need to leverage the science of learning much more effectively to reverse this trend.
This deep dive also helps us debunk some pervasive educational myths that continue to influence teaching approaches, often, it seems, to our detriment. First, pure discovery learning, the belief that children should discover everything on their own with minimal guidance. This idea, advocated by Rousseau, Piaget, Pimpeper, believing it fostered autonomous minds.
Right, but the research is pretty clear. It's repeatedly proven ineffective, or at least much less effective than guided instruction. Learning works best when teachers provide guidance and explicit instruction, maybe alternating explanation with hands-on testing and application. Even bright children who manage to discover solutions independently often end up performing worse later than those first shown how to solve a problem. Pure discovery learning frequently leaves students with a superficial understanding, preventing them from accessing the deeper logical structures of a discipline.
Like throwing someone in a library and expecting them to become a literary critic without any guidance.
Exactly. Some scaffolding, some structure is necessary.
Okay, what about the popular ideas of digital natives or different learning styles? Are these supported by the science we've discussed?
Those are also widely debunked myths, despite their popularity. Research shows children's mastery of technology is often surprisingly superficial. And multitasking, far from being some special skill for digital natives, is a bottleneck for everyone, regardless of age. It's a fundamental property of our brain architecture. We have limited attentional resources.
Right.
And there's simply no credible scientific evidence that children have radically different visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learning styles that require fundamentally different kinds of instruction. What is true is that some teaching strategies work better than others overall, but when they do, this superiority applies to all of us, or at least most of us. For instance, using both visual and auditory information generally enhances memory for everyone, not just for a supposed visual learner subgroup. For all we know, all humans, despite our individual differences, share the same fundamental learning algorithm.
So if we take all of this wisdom from cognitive science, what does it truly mean for our future? It points to a clear need for an alliance, doesn't it, for the schools of tomorrow? Harmonizing our education systems with the profound discoveries of cognitive and brain sciences.
Absolutely. Education should be evidence-based, much like medicine is striving to be. Teachers, despite their absolutely crucial role at the forefront of learning, often receive little to no professional training in the actual science of learning. How the brain takes in information, how memory works, the role of attention.
That seems like a huge gap.
It is. We need to invest in them, revise teacher training programs, and provide them with the best tools cognitive science has to offer. Empowering teachers with this knowledge is arguably the most impactful change we could make systemically.
And scientists, on their part, need to scale up research from the controlled environment of the laboratory to the complex reality of the classroom, conducting full-scale experiments to design and rigorously evaluate innovative educational tools and methods.
Exactly. This collaborative effort, bringing together teachers, parents, scientists, policymakers, is absolutely essential to reignite the curiosity and joy of learning in all children and help them truly optimize their cognitive potential.
So we've journeyed through the incredible world of how your brain learns. We've seen its extraordinary plasticity and resilience, how it constantly builds and refines internal mental models, minimizes errors, and how it relies on those 4 fundamental pillars: attention to select and amplify, active engagement and curiosity to generate hypotheses, error feedback to correct those models, and consolidation through spaced repetition and that crucial restorative sleep. We've also explored the powerful concepts of sensitive periods and neuronal recycling, showcasing how cultural inventions like reading and math literally reshape our innate architecture without altering our genes.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the human brain is just this marvel of evolutionary compromise.
Yeah.
It's pre-wired with foundational knowledge, yet dynamically shaped by every interaction, every piece of information you encounter. Understanding these intricate mechanisms offers, I think, a profound insight into your own potential. It highlights that learning isn't a passive activity at all. It's an active, ongoing process of adaptation and refinement, a continuous dialogue between your inner blueprint and the outer world.
And what's truly fascinating to reflect on is how our individual learning journey, built on these scientific principles, is also deeply intertwined with social learning, with cultural transmission. This cultural ratchet effect, as some call it, allows humanity to build knowledge far beyond what any single individual could ever achieve alone. We literally stand on the shoulders of generations of learners. But the flip side to this incredible capacity is the imperative for critical thinking, right? To actively verify knowledge, to question assumptions, and to avoid passively absorbing misinformation or outdated beliefs, which can be just as easily amplified by that same cultural ratchet. So considering all of this, the brain's astonishing resilience, its model building, error-correcting nature, the 4 pillars, its capacity for recycling. Here's a final thought. What if we, as adults, consciously embrace the idea that we can strive to reopen our sensitive periods, at least to some degree, for certain skills? By deliberately applying the 4 pillars of learning, focusing our attention with real passion, actively engaging our curiosity with challenging yet accessible information, seeking objective, non-punitive error feedback from every mistake, and diligently consolidating knowledge through spaced retrieval and prioritizing restorative sleep. Could we maintain a greater degree of childlike plasticity throughout our lives, continuously evolving our brains in ways our ancestors never even imagined, perhaps even defying the traditional limits of those sensitive periods? It's a powerful thought to carry forward, isn't it?